Forward. Thank you for those who have commented, letting me know whether or not you're following along or working on it as I am. So we're going to get started and I'm going to hit continue. And so the very first problem says Juliet White is a head of household taxpayer with a daughter named Sabrina. They live in Reno, Nevada. Juliet works at a local law firm, the law offices of Dane Gray, and she attends school in the evenings at Reno Community College. She is taking some general classes and is not sure what degree she wants to pursue yet. She is taking 3 units this semester. Full-time status at RCC is 9 credits or 9 units. Juliet's mother watches Sabrina after school and in the evenings, no charge, so that Juliet can work and take classes at RCC. We have the dependents information and their birth dates. We have the taxpayers' W-2 information. Also, we have their tuition statement or tuition information. And so we are to complete a 1040. As you can see, we have to do a Schedule 3, Schedule 8812, as we normally do, Form 8863, which deals with tuition, and Schedule EIC for earned income credit. So it's going to be a lot of back and forth. We want to start with this preliminary information. I'm sorry. One second. Okay, so our preliminary information. Sorry, I keep getting chats. All right, so first name is Juliet. Last name is White. The social we have is 412-345670. The home address, and be very careful with this address because there are 2 addresses in this problem that are for Nevada. However, you want to choose the one with the right zip code. It's Reno, Nevada. So 1009 Olinda Trace. This is apartment 5B. And the city is Reno, Nevada. See how it's 2 options here. You have the zip 78882 and then you have the zip 78887. For this home address, the zip that you should be using is 78887. Very important. All right, we do not need to check any boxes under the presidential election campaign because it did not say that she contributed or wanted to contribute. And also, this is going to be, because she has a dependent, this is going to be a head of household taxpayer status. No one can claim the taxpayer as a dependent. Make sure right here for the digital assets, because it can be easily missed. At any time during 2023, did you receive or sale, exchange, or otherwise dispose of a digital asset, we're going to select the option no, because we don't have that information anyway. And we don't need to do the age and blindness test. The taxpayers will within those confinements. As far as the dependent is concerned, it's Sabrina for the first name. Last name is White. Social is 412-345-672. The relationship to the taxpayer, this is her daughter. And we're going to check the box for child tax credit. And because this is a traditional dependent, they're not considered to be other. Now, once you have all of the preliminary information, please let me know in the chat, and then we'll move down to the income section. All right, now we're going to move down to the income section, which is basically line 1A for the W-2 income that we were given. And the amount you should be placing on line 1A is 30,116. That's also going to automatically enter the number that is on line 1Z. She doesn't have any, wonky things going on as far as interest is concerned, dividends or anything like that. So we can beeline all the way down to line 12, which is a normal for us. She doesn't have any itemized deductions, so that makes it pretty simple to use the head of household standard deduction here, which is 20,800. You want to place that on line 12. And then line 15, subtracting line 14 from line 11. So 30,116 minus 20,800 gives us 9,316. So please confirm that you have everything on this page 1040, page 1, before we go to the next area or the next couple of forms that we need to complete technically. Okay, great. And I did see someone, I didn't miss the comment. Let me see. Hold on. Natasha, okay, I know that you can't answer, so thank you for letting me know that you're working on your tablet, so it might be a little hard for you to do both, which is perfectly fine. All right, so now that we have this, we're going to go all the way to form 8863, page 1. Instead of us going to page 2 of 1040, let's start here, because a lot of these forms and the information from these forms have to go on that page 1040, page 2. So let's just start at 8863, page 1. 8863, page 1 is dealing with the education credits, and she is enrolled in this community college, but she doesn't go full time. She doesn't even technically go part time. She only is taking, it looks like 3 credit hours. So on this 8863, page 1, we're going to go down to line 10. That's where we're going to start. And line 10 says, after completing part 3 for each student, which is not applicable, okay, right now, we're going to enter the amounts, which is basically the tuition that she paid. So that was $775 that we're going to place on line 10, all right? Line 11 says enter the smaller of line 10, or 10,000. We're going to enter that 775 yet again. Line 12 says for us to multiply line 11 by 20%. So 775 times 20%, or 0.20, is 155. And we're going to place that on line 12. Now, line 13 says enter 180,000 if married filing jointly, and 90,000 if single, head of household, or qualifying widower. We're going to enter 90,000 here on line 13. Line 14 says enter the amount from your 1040. Line 11, which is basically the taxable income, it was 30,116. Line 15 says to subtract line 14 from 13. So 90,000 minus 30,116, that is 59,884. So far, this is what you should have from lines 10 down to 15. Once you confirm that, we'll move on to the next portion. All right, very good. So now we're going to go to line 16, which says enter 20,000 if married filing jointly, 10,000 if single, and all the other statuses. So we're going to enter 10,000 here on line 16. Line 17 says that if line 15 is equal to or more than line 16, enter 1 on line 17. And so line 16, line 15 is more than line 16. So we're going to enter 1 decimal 3 zeros. That's very important. 1 decimal 3 zeros. That's what you need to enter on line 17. Line 18 says to multiply line 12 by 17. And so our line 12, we had $155. And so multiplying that by 1 just gives you $155. Line 19, non-refundable education credits. It says enter the amount from line 7 on the credit limit worksheet here and on schedule 3. In other words, the 155. So let me know once you have this complete, and then we're going to go to the 8863, page 2. Okay, very good. So now we're going to go to the 8863, page 2. 8863, page 2. Now, with this one, this is basically the information that is needed for the education portion. The first thing is the name of the educational institution. You can start typing Reno. It's Reno Community College in box A. Box 1, the address. We don't have the address of the community college. However, we know that it is in Reno, Nevada. Now, here is again where you need to choose the correct zip code. It should be the one ending in 8882. So it should be Reno, Nevada 78882. All right. So now that you have that, these questions that we have below. Number 2, did the student receive a Form 1098T? We're going to select yes. Number 3, did the student receive 1098T from this institution in 2022? We're going to select no one because we don't have that information. Now, here is where, under normal circumstances, Connect would have marked you incorrect for this being blank, but I'm going to give you the number. They didn't give it to you in the problem. I reported that to Connect, but it looks like they still have not fixed it. But it should be 72-929 2922. Make sure you have that number in box 4, 72-929 2922. Line 23 has the Hope Scholarship or American Opportunity. We're going to say no. Line 24, we're also going to say no because the student was not enrolled half-time or full-time. Now, once you have these questions, please let me know. I don't want to move down if someone has not answered these yet and put in this EIN number. All right, so now we're going to go down, and the last thing to do on this form is to put our tuition here on line 31, which was $775. Confirm that you have this, and from there, we're going to go to Schedule 3. Welcome in, Kayla. All right. So now we're going to go to schedule 3 here. And on schedule 3, this is not a lot to fill out. The education credits are all we're concerned about on this schedule. So in box 3, you should be entering that 155 that we just determined on the 8863. Box 3, you should have 155, and it's going to automatically enter it down at the bottom on line 8. Confirm once you have this, and then we're going to go back to, in fact, we'll just go ahead and do the schedule 8812. So confirm you have this one, and then we'll do the 8812. All right, so now we're going to go to the schedule 8812. And we usually have completed this form quite a few times. But on line 1, where it says enter the amount from line 11 on your 1040, that's the taxable income. It is 30,116. Going down to line 4, she only has one dependent that is a qualifying child. So you put 1 in box 4. And in box 5, we're simply multiplying box 4 by 2,000. So we're going to have 2,000 for line 5. So confirm that you have boxes 1, 4, 3, 4, and 5 before we move down further. All right, so now we're going to move down further to box 9 or line 9, where it says for us to enter 200,000 for all other statuses, which is the case for this taxpayer. So 200,000. And line 10, where it says that subtract line 9 from line 3, and if it is 0 or less, enter 0. It is going to be a negative number, so we're going to enter a hard 0 on line 10. Line 11 is not applicable here, but line 12, it says, is the amount on line 8 more than line 11? And of course, the answer is yes. And so we're going to bring down that 2,000 to line 12. And we're also going to answer the question here that says yes. All right, you're going to check the box yes. Line 13 says enter the amount from credit limit worksheet A, which we have not done. Okay. So let me know once you get here, and then we're going to go over to the worksheet A and finish that out. We are on schedule 8812, page 1. All right. We're going to stop here temporarily and we're going to go to the Schedule 8812 Worksheet A. This is where you want to be, the Schedule 8812 Worksheet A. And the very first line wants the amount from line 18 on your 1040, which we haven't figured, but it's the tax, okay? So I'm going to pull up the tax table so we can find out what the amount of tax is. Anyway, remember this taxpayer is married, I'm sorry, not married, filing jointly, head of household, which is the fourth column here for the taxable income, not taxable income, I'm sorry, the amount of tax. And the taxable income was 30,116. So we're going to go up to that 30,000 range. Which is somewhere here. I'm sorry, that was not the taxable income. Hold on. Taxable income is actually 9,316. The 30,000 was the AGI. Okay, so let me go up further to the 9,000 range. So it was 9,316. And so that means that is more than 9,300, but less than 9,350. The last column, all of them actually say $933. So that's going to be our amount of tax. We're going to come here to line 1. We're going to put 933. Keep in mind, we're on Schedule 8812, Worksheet A. Box 1 should be 933 because that's her amount of tax. Also, if you remember on the Schedule 3, we figured out the tuition credits, which were 155. So on box 2, Schedule 3, line 3 is where you should be. We're going to enter 155 there. And that's the only thing you put in this section. We're going to bring that total down for box 2. And box 3 wants us to subtract line 2 from line 1. So 933 minus 155 gives us 778 to place in box 3. Please confirm you have this before we go down to the bottom of this form. Okay. So now at the bottom of this form, which is just basically line 4 and 5, line 4 says, if you're not completing credit limit worksheet B, always enter a hard 0. So we're going to enter a hard 0 for box 4. And line 5, subtract line 4 from line 3. We're just simply going to bring down that 778. Once you have this, please let me know, because we're going to go back to the 8812 page 1. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to go back to the Schedule 8812 page 1. And where we left off here was line 13 and 14. So now line 13, you want to put that 778 from credit limit worksheet A. Line 14 says to enter the smaller of line 12 or line 13. And line 13 is the smaller, so we're going to also enter 778 there as well. All right, if you have this, confirm that, and then we can go to page 2 of this 8812. Okay, I see that you all have it. So now we're going to go to page 2 of that 8812. And the very first line, 16A, says subtract line 14 from line 12. So I'm going to tell you what these amounts are. Essentially, it's $2,000 minus 778. So 2,000 minus 778 is 1,222. And so we're going to enter that in box 16A. 16B says the number of qualifying children under the age of 17. So we're going to put 1 in this box. And then 16B says for us to multiply 1 times 1,600. We know it's going to be 1,600. Line 17 says enter the smaller of line 16A or 16B. So we're going to pull down 16A, 1,222. Line 18A says the earned income, which is essentially the taxable income. I'm sorry, the AGI, 30,116 should be in box 18A. And box 19 says, is the amount on 18A more than 2,500? We're going to select yes. And it says to subtract 2,500 from the amount on line 18A. And so 30,116 minus 2,500 leaves us with 27,616 to place in box 19. And box 20 says to multiply the amount on line 19 by 15% or 0.15. And so 27,616 times 15% gives us 4,142 to place on line 20. Let me know you have everything here before we go down to the very bottom of this form. Okay, so now at the very bottom of this form, this section 2 or part 2 doesn't apply to this taxpayer, but part 3 says this is your additional child tax credit. It's the same amount that is here on line 16A and 17. Okay, so it is 1,222 that you're going to enter in box 27. Once you have that, please let me know. Okay, thank you for confirming that. So now we're going to go to the schedule EIC. Schedule EIC. Because it doesn't require any calculations here, but it is information that's needed to be recorded. So we're going to go down to the first column of child one, because she only has one dependent. And remember, the first name is Sabrina. The last name is White. And her social is 412-34-5672. Please put the dashes. Her year of birth is 2014, according to the problem. Okay, confirm you have this before I move down to the bottom half of this form. This is the schedule EIC. All right, so now we're going to go down to the bottom half of this form. And it's stating, was the child under the age of 24? We're going to select yes. And box B does not apply here. Box 5, client's relationship to the taxpayer is daughter. And lastly, box 6 is asking how many months the dependent was lived with the taxpayer. We're going to say 12 months there. All right. Finally, confirm you have this, and then we'll go to the 1040 page 2. Back to the 1040 page 2. All right, let's go to the 1040 page 2 so we can go ahead and finish this problem. Now, remember the tax that I looked at and I showed you. We're going to place that. It says skip 4A and 4B if you were born after 2004. Is that what you're stating? Where are you reading that? Okay, it says if born after 2004 and the child is younger than you, which is not the case. The child is younger than the taxpayer, of course. However, if you're, yes, skip lines 4A and 4B. However, I'm letting you know to not skip, because if you do, it's going to mark you incomplete. Okay, you have to check the box yes for 4A. You have to. So for the 1040 page 2, box 16 was the tax that we figured, which is 933. And line 19 for the child tax credit from the 8812, we want to put 778. Line 20 for the amount from Schedule 3, line 8, if you remember, was 155. According to the problem, the amount of federal tax withheld is 997 for box 25A. Give me 1 second here because my screen is freezing and I don't know why. All right. So now we need to determine the earned income credit. I'm sorry. I'm getting frozen. I really hate that. They have linked, or they should have linked, the EIC tables here. So I'll just pull those up. I'm going to close the tax tables out. So we need to take the AGI. If hopefully you all can see this, let me just verify. Yes, you can see it. All right. So we need to take the AGI, which is 30,116, and locate that here on the EIC table. And if you go down here to 30,000, it was 30,116. So that is more than 30,100, but less than 30,150. And for a head of household with one dependent, it comes out to 2,626. That would be the earned income credit. So we're going to come down here to box 27, and we're going to enter 2,626. Remember, the additional child tax credit from the 8812 that we completed was 1,222. All right. And then lastly, line 34, subtract line 24 from line 33. And we are going to take well, we really don't have anything. We don't have anything on line 24. So we're going to basically bring down 4,845. That would be the refund or the amount overpaid. And we're also going to place that same amount on line 35A. So please confirm that you have this, and then I'm going to do a check my work. And we're going to quickly move through the next problem because it is not a tax return that we are completing on the next problem. So just confirm that you have this before we move forward. Okay, thank you for confirming that you have that. I'm going to do check my work on my end and see if there's anything to correct before we go to the next problem. Hopefully there's no box unchecked or something like that. And it is not complete. So let's see if we can locate the problem really quickly. All those boxes are checked. Page 2, everything is complete there. Schedule 3, everything is there. 8812. We're okay there. All right. Page 2 of 8812. Everything is okay there. Form 8863. Looks like everything is in line there. 8863, page 2. Even everything there is in line. EIC. Yep, everything there is okay as well. Worksheet A. So this is the part where, and I'll be honest, I've had this issue with this same problem for over a year at this point. So let's see, page 1. The 1.3, I'm confused about what you're saying. What is 1.3? Line 17. No, that shouldn't be 1.3. That's actually correct. That's supposed to be 1.000. So that's not the issue with this particular problem. If you have anything other than 1.000, then, you shouldn't have if you do. 1040, lines 22, 23. Let's see. No, there's nothing on 22 or 23. It's supposed to be blank. They don't apply to this taxpayer. Uh, 845. What box in EIC? Everything that I have had you all check and everything, I can see it on the blueprint. So that's what's required. If you put anything additional in there, it's going to definitely mark you incomplete. Okay. The only boxes that you should have checked here is for line 4A. Anything outside of that, if you have anything else checked, you should not, because it should mark you incorrect. 4A should definitely be checked. That's why it marked it correct here. You see the green box. Anytime you see the green check, that's correct. If you see a red X, that's an issue. But the problem is a lot of times with this, it won't show you a red X with a lot of them. And I've had this problem with this same, I've had the issue with this same problem for a year now, and they have yet to fix it. Perfect example, where you all enter the EIN here, they don't even give that information in the problem. So it would have marked you wrong for it being blank. So it's just, what it shows me is that it's an impending issue with this problem in general. And I don't know what they're going to do to fix it or how they're going to address it. I've reported it every single semester since we switched over to Connect, and they still have yet to fix it. So my suggestion here, because we cannot waste a lot of time on this, plus I have other classes to have chats for, do everything that was done in this recording, and whatever points are missing after that, and I'm just going to stress this, you must do everything that we've done in this recording. And whatever points are the differential between this and 50, I will award those points. However, if you don't do everything that we did in this recording, you won't have a perfect score, because that means that you missed something that we did on this recording and you shouldn't have. All right. So do everything that we did in this recording to your problem. And when you submit it, yes, it's going to say incomplete, but I will adjust those points later in the grading. Moving on to problem 2. This is just requiring us to complete a W-2 form for only one of these employees. And I'm going to post an announcement after we get off of here that breaks down how we got to the federal withholdings, but how we got to all the withholdings. But, I'm just going to walk you through how you would complete a problem like this, just in case you may have it on, a prepare assignment or something like that. I'm not totally for sure, but just to make sure. The preliminary information, starting with the employee's social security number, they only want this for this employee, Nyla Nefa. So that's the information we're going to enter. The social is 412-34-5670. The employer ID is 36-123-8975. This is information that they've given us in the problem. The employer's name starts with an L, A-U, La Pricha Incorporated. And the address number is 1825. The street is Elkhart Way. And the city is Columbus, state, Georgia. And the zip is 31904. It's okay if you're unable to pull up that problem, then you'll just have to go back and watch the recording for this particular portion. All right. If we go down a little further, employee name, N-A-L, Nyla Nefa there. The address that they've given us for her is 988. Street is Main Street. This is Midland, is the city. Also Georgia. Zip is 31820. Now, we're supposed to take the amount of wages that they've given us, and we're supposed to determine the wages, the annual wages, the annual federal income tax withheld, the annual Social Security, and Medicare. All right. So confirm that you have this preliminary information before I scroll back up on this problem. Okay, so if you notice in the problem for this particular employee, they're on semi-monthly payroll. Semi-monthly payroll means there's a total of 24 pay periods for the year. No problem. Thank you, Kayla. Semi-monthly is 24 pay periods. If it had been bi-weekly, it would be 26 pay periods through the year. And of course, if it is just simply monthly, it would be 12 payments, right? Or 12 payroll checks. But this is semi-monthly, so we're talking about 24 payments for the year. And she makes $6,000 semi-monthly. So for the wages, the Social Security wages, the Medicare wages, they're all going to be the same. We're going to take 6,000 and we're going to multiply that by 24. 6,000 times 24 is 144,000. That is going to be the annual wages. All right. Now, the Social Security um, the Social Security rate, tax rate, and the medical tax, Medicare tax rate has always been more or less the same. I mean, it just hasn't deviated over the years, but Social Security tax is always going to be 6.2% on the wages that you earn, and Medicare is always 1.45%. So with that being said, if we take that 144,000 annually that this employee makes and we multiply that by 6.2%, that is going to give us a total of 8,928. That is going to be the amount of Social Security tax that should be received from this employee. So we're going to enter 8,928 on line 4. Likewise, taking those same semi-monthly wages or annual wages and multiplying them by the Medicare rate, which is 1.45% or 0.0145. We're going to multiply 144,000 times 1.45%. That gives us $2,088 for the Medicare annually. Now, the federal withholding is a few steps in order to get the federal withholding. All right. And even the amount that Connect says is the federal withholding is still wrong. And I've reported that several times, but it's still wrong. And the reason that it is wrong is because the amount that they want you to have is actually higher than what the amount actually should be, mainly because there has to be some additional withholding somewhere or some additional income somewhere as other income, okay, that they would have had to include in the problem information, but they do not. So in the announcement on the front course page, I am going to explain to you both alternatives. One under the alternative that the numbers are what they are, and according to what the 2023 rates were, should be the correct number. And the other alternative is going to be what Connect says it is, but it's truly not accurate. Okay. But I want you to know how to be able to derive at federal withholdings for the year, because what they want to do, the reason why it's off also, I'm going to show you this before we close this out, but they want you to use these percentage tables in order to calculate the withholdings, which is not an issue. The issue is, if you notice in the problem, they give you all this information for every employee and they just say married, single, head of household, etc. They don't tell you whether or not this is a married filing jointly or a married filing separately, right? You literally have no clue because they don't give you the information in the problem. But if you notice here on the percentage tables that have been given to you, and they're also in your textbook, okay, there is a section for married filing jointly and there is a section for married filing separately. And because they didn't give you that information in the problem, if you had to do this on your own, you still wouldn't have been able to derive at the correct answer for a semi-monthly. Now that's weekly payroll, but for every table, they have married filing joint and married filing separately. This would be the semi-monthly payroll that we will be concerned with. But because you don't know if it's married filing jointly or married filing separately, you wouldn't have known what the correct answer would have been because you would have had two different alternative answers. So I'm going to explain that in the announcement on the front course page. The amount that I want you to put here in the problem for federal income tax withheld is $10,201. And this is probably the only time it's okay to put cents. 0.92 is because it's federal withholding. So it's the accurate number, not a rounded number. It's actually what the employer should take from the employee for federal withholding. So the amount you should put in box 2 is $10,201.92. Once you confirm that you have all of this, I'll do a check my work and see if we are missing anything. All right, so I'm going to hit check my work to see if there's anything to correct. And this one should be complete and accurate. So as I said before, on the very first problem, you're going to do everything that was in this recording, and you're still going to show incorrect or incomplete. And that is okay. Leave it as it is. Only after you do everything we've done in the recording. Leave it as it is, and the points will be adjusted once the grade is entered. Thank you for staying at least 15 or 16 minutes over, those who were able to. We're going to go ahead, and please keep in mind about the incomplete due date, incomplete request due date. If you've done both problems and you're for sure that you covered every single base that I did in this recording, yes, it's okay to submit it. Keep in mind the deadline for due date, for incomplete requests. If you have to put in a request for an incomplete, I cannot stress this enough because I see students do this every single term. If you know you need an incomplete, please request it before the deadline date. The deadline date is in the announcements as well as in your CTU messenger. So it's in several places, but the deadline date is Friday, 11:59 p.m. Friday, which is July 11th, 11:59 p.m. Friday, July 11th, 11:59 p.m. I cannot stress that enough. If you are requesting an incomplete, the request needs to be in by that date. If for whatever reason it does not come in by that date, then you cannot be granted an incomplete for the course. I've explained in the announcement as well as in the chat what an incomplete is or why you might potentially want to request it to get the additional time. Please do not send me a request and say, hey, I need an incomplete, because my response to you is going to be, what is the incomplete for? I have to have a reason as to why you are requesting an incomplete. Asking me to process an incomplete without a reason means it won't be processed. So I can't stress that enough. All right. Outside of that, thank you so much for all your hard work over the weeks. I know this has not been the easiest class or the most desirable, but I thank you for sticking it out, hanging in there. I would strongly suggest that if you have past due assignments, that you work diligently, not until the last minute, diligently to get them done. By the due date, if you have not been granted an incomplete. Also, if you've never checked your student email, you definitely need to start checking it, because your instructors, I'm sure, just like me, send you information and it will go to your student email. And if you never check it, you might miss out on quality information. So please make sure you adhere to the deadlines. If you are not requesting an incomplete, nor do you need an incomplete, just know that your requirement to complete everything in the course is to have it done no later than Monday, which should be the 14th. That's July 14th. Anything that comes in after that will not be considered. Literally, the grades are going in, okay, on the 15th. So please, 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 if you have past due work that you are trying to complete and get some kind of credit, even the current work, after the 14th of July, it will not be accepted unless you have an incomplete request on file. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend as well. Congratulations to those of you who are graduating after this term. Yes, that includes discussions, any of the Connect assignments as well. Now, keep in mind, I also need to say this because I don't think I've ever announced this. If you, for whatever reason, get a grade on a discussion because you forgot to do replies to classmates or you forgot to post an initial post, you cannot get an updated grade for going back and doing those things. Once it's graded, that is the grade, in fact, that you will keep. All right. So just keep that in mind. If you have done a discussion, you've gotten a grade on it, and you're like, oh, I forgot to reply to 2 people, and you go back and reply, those replies are not being considered. Okay. You have to do these things before they are graded. Outside of that, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, thank you for all your hard work. And again, don't worry about problem 1 if you've done everything that we did today. Congratulations, Peggy. and your grade will be adjusted accordingly. All right. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.